Good evening, everyone. Good evening, guys. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Yes, good evening. Welcome to today's section. This is the third week for the fourth quarter. My name is Dennis Williams. I will be your moderator for today. Thank you guys for joining. Sorry for the little delay. We had to go live stream. So I want to welcome you guys to today's section of entertainment, business, and law. Our topic for today is the fashion business and law. It's nice to have everyone here join us on call. I can see Adeife Omo, Lumo, I can see Elsa Victor, I can see Olua Busayo. Thank you guys for joining. And I can also see one of our mentors is also on call. Thank you, Ma, for coming. Thank you, Ma, for coming. I want to encourage everyone, if it's possible from your own end, to turn on your video so that we can see our faces, so that I can get to know some of our mentees. So if it's possible, you can go ahead and turn on your video. Okay. With that being said, I would like us to just go straight into the introduction for today's section. So we'll be taking our announcements. We've officially closed the portal for registration for this quarter, but the portal is also opened for registration in the next quarter. So you can start making arrangements to be a part of our mentorship and internship program for the next quarter. That will be Q1, first quarter of 2024. So courses available, we still have intellectual property, artificial intelligence and technology, the entertainment industry, the energy industry, fintech industry, health tech and law, data privacy and protection, and the entertainment law, entertainment business and law, and what we are currently having today. To other announcements, there's still space to have 30 minutes one-on-one mentorship with your favorite JIIPC mentors. You can get hacks, secrets, life lessons, directions from your favorite mentor. So over the course of the program, you will be meeting quite a number of mentors. I'm sure you've already met some mentors that you have connected with. And if you would like to have a one-on-one mentorship section with them, a 30 minutes one-on-one mentorship section with them, we give you the opportunity to do so. You can message me directly, or you can send a message to the WhatsApp group, and we'll do well to get that to you, do well to get across to you. So let's go ahead and introduce our mentors for today. Our first mentor for today is Mrs. Omotayo Alemeru. Ms. Omotayo Alemeru Abiode is the founder and lead consultant at My Digital Lawyer, where she uses her experience in intellectual property and entertainment law to educate and enlighten creatives and entrepreneurs on how to legalize and protect their brands and innovations. She has a master's degree in intellectual property law and intellectual property law and policies, and has completed several certifications in intellectual property with international organizations, including, but not limited to, the World Intellectual Property Organization. Omotayo, also widely known as My Digital Lawyer, regularly advises and represents a wide range of brands within and outside Nigeria on transactional commercial issues, including basic and technical legal issues surrounding intellectual property, media, and entertainment, with about 10 years post-call experience and about 5 years active experience in being an IP lawyer and tutor. Omotayo likes to identify herself as a woman in entertainment and intellectual property because she constantly works with entrepreneurs and creatives, where she uses her practical experience to teach intellectual property rights, thereby helping business owners and creative legalize and protect their brands innovation creative works effectively. Omotayo has an excellent reputation for constantly sharing great value with her audience online. She has been interviewed on quite a number of shows on international TV like Arise News and um, Espade Media in the United States, both digital and in person, respectively. She also has a YouTube channel, My Digital Lawyer, where she posts legal content on IP, entertainment law, and related content to help businesses and creators understand how to protect their intellectual property rights. She does this across all her social networks, such as Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and TikTok. Omotayo stands out for gender equality in the workplace, using her voice experience on digital media to communicate the need to embrace equity as well as to celebrate diversity, particularly in the creative community, so women can be given equal opportunities as their male counterparts in every sphere of work. That is our first mentor for today. I can already see on call Mrs. Omotayo. You are welcome. We'll be going ahead to introduce our second mentor. Our second mentor is Ms. Bernice Ofunre Asaying. Sorry, Ma, if I did not pronounce your name very well. Ms. Bernice Ofunre Asaying is the founder of sorry about that, is the founder of Fashion Law Institute and Cardinal Counsel, a business-oriented law firm with a commitment to innovate and reimaging legal service delivery. She has a passion for fashion and is committed to advancing the development and innovation of the fashion industry in Africa. She is a certified trademark opposition lawyer and holds a certificate in advanced intellectual property valuation from the Intellectual Property Institute of Nigeria. She is also a member of the Institute of Chartered Secretariats and Administrators of Nigeria and an associate member of the Institute of Chartered Mediators and conciliators. Sorry. She further holds a certificate in tax law from the Chartered Institute of Taxation in Nigeria and is currently undergoing a LLM program at Babcock University, Nigeria. Welcome, Ms. Bernice. It's nice to have you on call. Thank you, Ma, for joining us. So we'd like to get into the business of the day. Our topic for today is fashion, business, and law. So we'll be having Ms. Bernice come and give us a brief introduction into her section. Thank you very much, Ma. You're welcome to today's section. Yes, Ma, can you hear me? Yes, Ma. Welcome, Ma.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Ma, we can hear you.
Okay, so first, hello everyone. I would have to apologize for my network. I may be going off and on, but just be very patient with me because like the network is a bit bad here. Anyway, thank you so much to the management of JIIPCC for inviting me here. You know, it's always a pleasure to share my knowledge on fashion, business, and law. So yeah, like you mentioned earlier, my name is Bernice Asen, and I'm the founder of Fashion Law Institute. What we basically do at the Institute is share knowledge on intellectual property, research, policy advocacy around the fashion industry. For me, right, I will be talking based on my experience and, you know, the slide that I saw earlier. So the slides earlier talked about a lot of intellectual property, and I'm one person to always deviate from that conversation, really, because if you go online, right, if you do your research, you would see that intellectual property is one of the major parts of fashion, which of course I'm not disputing, but I like to go to other areas. And I always like to start like this. A lot of lawyers, right, have when they want to pick a specialization, they always think that they don't always understand that there is industry specialization and subject matter specialization. So when I say that I'm a fashion lawyer, I mean that I am specializing in a particular industry. However, if I say subject matter, it means that maybe I'm talking about, this is my definition really, but this is how I understood it as a young lawyer. So if I talk about subject matter, I'm talking about things like business law, I'm talking about things like taxation, I'm talking about things like intellectual property. Why? Because you will find the subject matter across any industry that you find yourself. So when I say fashion law, I mean various subject matter embedded in one industry. So there are several things that you do in that industry and not just intellectual property. So I know that I have 10 minutes or so. So I would go straight into it. There are so many myths about fashion law, and one of which is intellectual property fashion law is a pillar of intellectual property. However, it's really not exactly so, as intellectual property is a pillar of fashion law. There are other things that fashion law covers, and one of the biggest one is sustainability and environmental law. So if you do a quick search on sustainability, you would realize that there is a lot of conversations around that in the fashion industry. And when I'm advising clients, when clients are asking questions, when I'm talking to organizations that, are trying to break into the fashion space, they are always talking about sustainability. Why? Because the fashion industry is seen as the second or the first or the most polluting industry in the world, and it's a lot of things to consider, right? One of the things that we tell people to have intellectual property and produce more and produce innovative things. However, that production has led to overproduction and is polluting and affecting the society. And it's a lot of, if you check, different jurisdictions, you will see that there are a lot of policies trying to either cut down production or trying to recycle or trying to, just help the environment. And it's a major problem because when I first started, it was a conversation I was running away from, To me, it's like you're advising a fashion business and you should stick only to IP and trademark, but they are asking you about policy issues as regards sustainability. So as a lawyer, I think that's one area that when you're doing your presentation, you should actually be talking towards that line. There's so many areas, there's so many things about, sustainability that one has to really consider too. Another part of sustainability is the legality of secondhand clothing. A lot of fashion brands in Nigeria are thrifting or selling secondhand clothing. And if you look at the law specifically, you would see that the provisions of the law, as regards custom, you will see that secondhand is one of the prohibited goods, right? So how is somebody building a business on a goods that is prohibited? Although there are a lot of implementation issues and all of that, but I mean, you would see that when the law has already said something is illegal or is prohibited, there's a lot of questions as to how the person is going to actually scale that business. So if Nigerian businesses or fashion businesses are promoting secondhand clothing, there's also a lot of policy issues. That means that there's a lot of gap in policy. So that's one of the areas that I think that a lot of times lawyers and as legal practitioners, we omit because maybe there's not a lot of information about that, but that's a particular area that I've seen come up a lot of times. So all of the fashion weeks that are coming up are centered on sustainability. All the fashion weeks, all their programs, events, everything is on sustainability. So if you're a lawyer and you're working in that particular space and you really don't have any idea of how that works or what is net zero or what's the positive economy or a circular economy, then you probably be lacking in that regard. So it's very important to actually include this when you talk about fashion law. Another area is taxation. Really, a lot of times people don't have knowledge on the basic requirements of what's expected of a business. And I have to even say, even lawyers themselves, when it comes to advising business on taxation, I know that it's not everybody's specialty, but if you will be representing fashion businesses and small businesses, you should be able to provide basic guidelines as to taxation. So I know that fashion businesses would ask you, in fact, anybody who is starting up a business, particularly fashion, let's just say, because that's the space that I play in, they would definitely ask you, what are the tax obligations of my business? How do I go about it? How do I use tax promax? Those are things that looks like, oh, it's very basic, but it's very, very important. And it's a service area that lawyers actually make money from. So there is labor law. After sustainability, intellectual property, labor law is a major part of the fashion industry. I don't know if you saw the news recently when Times Magazine, did an investigation on a particular modeling agency that is founded in Nigeria. They are international agency, very big, and in fact, I think some of my clients are actually always scouted under that particular agency. However, the investigation revealed that a lot of times this agency would go into IDP camps and would take young, beautiful, or Black people, because there's a rave on representation in the fashion industry. So they would go to the IDP camps and pick, young people, Black people, and they will take them to Europe and would expect that, they will be scouted by popular brands, Dior, Chanel, and the likes. And when it turns out that they are not scouted or they don't get any jobs for them, they return them back to the IDP camps, and they don't even return them back like, oh, we are just putting you back there with no debts. But these people come with debts. So they have a lot of expenses that they've incurred, and they are telling them that you have to pay this because you owe the agency this. However, they were just sitting down in their house, and the agency came to them to say, this is what we expect you to do. And they followed because, of course, they are chasing greener pasture. So that's one of the major areas that if you interact with a lot of models, they talk about a lot. Their contracts are not clear. There's always ambiguity as regards who is paying for their expenses during the time that they work, what's their work hours, who pays their travel expenses, so many things. And these people are sometimes either below 18, above 18, or maybe they don't know how to speak English correctly. And we all know what the law says about, language interpretation and contracts and all of those things. So they don't even follow basic rules. So I know that definitely if you're working with agencies, if you're working with models, if you are working for a non-profit organization, you would most likely face a lot of labor issues. Why I would talk about organizations, because while there are many fashion brands, there are also many fashion NGOs, right? NGOs protecting the fashion industry, protecting the environment, protecting individuals, labor, there are a lot of interest groups in the fashion industry, because there are a lot of call-outs that happens a lot. So I feel like if you're a lawyer going to play in this space, you have to be familiar with, stakeholder engagement and all of those things. You have to also be familiar with policies, right? Because you would be doing a lot of policy analysis, policy advisory, and, just around that area, really, you'll be playing. What other area am I missing out that is very, very important in the fashion space? Technology is another area, right? Because every business is almost now technology enabled, even if they are not having any at the core of their business, they do not have any tech savvy idea. However, to run their operations, they would need technology, right? So when we talk about technology, we're talking about e-commerce. A lot of brands now have e-commerce websites. That's not even it. Data protection comes in, because if you go to foreign jurisdictions, you will see that where you have an e-commerce website and a lot of brands are listing on it, there is a power tussle between the brands and e-commerce website, where they are trying to claim ownership to data protection. So if I run an e-commerce website and a lot of fashion brands are listing their product on it, who has the data that is, of the clients that are coming on that site to buy products? A lot of fashion brands will say that they are the owners because maybe their product and their clients' loyalty is the one driving traffic. A lot of times, e-commerce platforms will say that it is their digital marketing skills that is bringing this particular clients to their faces. So there is this dispute between brands and e-commerce platform. That's why a lot of brands are also trying to also double as a tool. If you look at Shein, for instance, Shein is an e-commerce platform and also a brand. A lot of fashion brands are e-commerce platform and also, a brand. But in Nigeria here, from my own experience and the clients that I have worked with, right, is usually always the tech guys building platforms while they want the fashion designers to come on board. Although sometimes these fashion designers will say that they have their own website and all of that, but they like the added benefit that they get from this external platform. So they will be negotiating a lot of contracts, a lot of terms of contract, terms of use, a lot of merchant agreements, a lot of synchronization of refund and exchange policy, because the fashion brand already has their exchange policy that they go with on a normal day. The platform wants to have their own exchange policy. And sometimes it's always to protect the customers and protect themselves. So the fashion brand will be there. So as a lawyer, you'll be synchronizing all of the brands that you're listing out. You're trying to list it because, it's a different thing when the fashion brands are coming to meet you to say, oh, I want to list on your platform, and they will just take anything. Sometimes the tech guys are the ones going to the fashion brand. So you have to now please people. So you have to synchronize all of the terms and conditions, exchange policy, and terms of use. So you see yourself playing in that regard. Another major area in the fashion space is funding. No matter how small a fashion business is, they always get funding, it might not be from institutions, but it just be friends. Oh, I want to put money in your business. Oh, I think that they're trying to talk to their friends and they're saying, oh, my business is moving well, so I just want to put 1 million naira. I see it a lot. They always have, I don't want to say angel investors because sometimes people don't really have the capacity, but people just want to throw in their spare cash into their business. It happens very much in the fashion space. So you will be advising your clients on investment and a lot of investment options and financing options open to them. So you have to be very careful, because I'm aware of, I don't know if anybody knows about the case of Grassfield rather, where they lost their business to their investors. The business is already still like operating and everything else. However, they kicked the two founders out of the business and took over the business. It was an investment contract really gone bad without a lawyer reviewing and all those things. So I know that investment agreements and arrangements or financing arrangements is very, very popular in the fashion space. So yeah, those are like the key areas that I think that, as a fashion lawyer, you can talk about IP, but, I'll just leave that. But those are the major areas that I know that as a fashion lawyer, you're going to be playing in. And yeah, so the other parts will be answered by the questions that I, saw in the email. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Bernice, for that very insightful section. I'm sure our mentees were able to pick one or two things from that section, and I guess they will have questions which they will be throwing on later as the session progresses. But before that, we'd like to have our second mentor also come up and have her own brief section. Ms. Omotayo, you can go ahead, ma, and have your section, ma.
Hi everyone. Good evening. And hi, Bernice. That was an excellent thing. That was an excellent presentation. I feel like I don't have any other thing to say after she has said a whole lot about that. So welcome everybody. And I'd just like to share my screen briefly so we can, okay, fashion. Okay. All right. I hope I'm audible and the audio is good, right? Yeah, so I like the fact that the first speaker spoke more about the fashion business. I believe that as an expert in any field, if you're an entertainment lawyer or a business lawyer or an energy lawyer, it's good that you first understand the industry you want to work in, the industry that's the crux of the main thing, the main business about it, not just the legal aspect. I mentioned that last week, so I'm reiterating that and also following what the first speaker has said earlier. So the fashion industry, basically encompasses the design, manufacturing, distribution, and retail. That's what the industry is about. First thing is you're seeing someone making a piece or pieces, and then not just beyond that piece, there's a whole lot that goes around it. So I would like to focus on the intellectual property area of that. And then and contract, employment and labor laws, ethical considerations, of course. I'd like to be fast about this. So the intellectual property rights we have in fashion, I believe since there's a second week, everyone here is quite familiar with the basic intellectual property rights. We have the copyright aspects. And first of all, especially if you are in Nigeria or Africans, we are not, I must say, we are not particular about these rights as much as those in the United States and European countries. So these rights still appear like intangible. Everyone is just about, oh, I want to make money from my business. You're not thinking of how to protect every other thing, how to protect your designs, how to protect the photography rights in those designs, how to protect the patents in those, every new thing you do in your work. You're just all about the money, right? That's I'm saying. When I say you, I mean your clients, not you as a lawyer who is supposed to be more knowledgeable. So the copyright covers creative aspects of the fashion, such as the patterns, the prints, and then it may also extend to images, like I mentioned, the photographs of maybe your pieces. And the first speaker mentioned e-commerce. You see, sometimes you have your photos as a designer, maybe a designer of bags or shoes, and you have photos taken of you, of your brand, on e-commerce platforms, whether they are yours or someone else's, right? The copyrights in those photos belong to you, to your brand. That's the designer of the company that owns those designs. So these are things that you have to consider when you want to even market your product, when you want your product to be out there on another person's platform as a designer. Look, whether you want to localize or you want to take it international, you have to be sure that the copyright is protected. Of course, we all know that copyright generally, once it's expressed in a form, is already automatically protected, right? And then the trademark rights in that brand. I would like to give this illustration about, I would like to come home to Ugomonye. I spoke about it sometime 2 years ago. If anyone saw Coming to America 2, Ugomonye's dress, or a design he made rather for Ebuka at the time, was replicated by some other Nigerian designer, and then that was what Eddie Murphy wore. So Ugomonye came off. I don't know if you all know Ugomonye, of course. I'm just saying Ugomonye is a Nigerian designer, well-known Nigerian designer, and he was agitated about the fact that supposedly his trademark rights was infringed upon. However, the case couldn't go further because eventually it was discovered that what was infringed upon is not the trademark right. So it's your own duty as a lawyer, right, to understand the particular intellectual property rights that's in a particular product. It may not just be the copyright. In this instance, it wasn't his trademark rights. It was a design, and he didn't have trademark rights in that particular brand. One, and the fact that trademark rights, you have to understand that it's territorial in nature. He couldn't succeed in that particular case, and that was how it was all about the social media force, and he couldn't lay claims in that particular case. Let's just say it died down eventually, but he could have had a better case if there were industrial designs protected. So we have the next right is patent right. And I think this is the most, difficult one to claim, especially here in Nigeria. I understand how patents are being claimed in the European states, but I'm not sure in Nigeria anyone has, maybe someone has, which I am not aware of, anyone has been able to patent a particular invention in fashion. I'm not aware of that. I stand to be corrected. So you have to, because the requirement for patentability is the fact that it is new or an improvement on something new, it's non-obvious, and that's original. So if you know, I would like to talk about the designer, Tiana. I find Tiana a very creative person, right? And she does a lot of, once there's red AMVC or any red carpet show or events in Nigeria, you can see Tiana's products and you say they stand out because of the creativity in what she does. But can you really say those serious creative designs are patentable? What kind of protection goes to. I wish I don't have pictures, but maybe over time you can decide to look up Tiana's designs. She really does, sometimes you see something like a skull and you're wondering how functional is this? It could actually be protected in some type of way, but you have to be certain that it meets up the requirement of patentability. Otherwise, she might just be left with copyright protection. Okay, so other common designs, like I have on my slide here, that have been patented is the zipper. You know how your zips are. One person must have invented the zipper, the first zipper, and then there are several other zippers that have come out even much more, sometimes complicated or appear differently. So the improvement on each of these are actually patented. And then we have the astronaut suits and then bag knots. Bag knots, I call them bag knots. I didn't know the right word. When you close your bag and you hook it, there are different styles. Different designers have different styles to doing that. So just that particular invention could be patented. So you can imagine this goes beyond making money from the product itself, but from the other intangible rights that come off these works. So common contracts in the fashion business. As a lawyer, you agree with me, or as lawyers, you agree with me that everything we do in business centers around contracts. Whether you are the supplier, you are the manufacturer of these designs, you are marketing, you are distributing digitally or physically. If you are distributing digitally, maybe on e-commerce platforms, you still need contracts. Even if you are the e-commerce, you own your own website, right? You need contracts that'll be binding users. So those are called policies, but they're still like contract, because when you click I agree, that's like a binding contract between your user and yourself. So we also have contracts even with your staff, people that you work with. There are so many cases where issues arise, like employers or employees or work for hire, and you see people complaining about the fact that someone else left, maybe someone left this work, someone resigned from my own brand and went to set up their own business, a competitive business, and you're really mad at them. Then you see them, most times you like to do Twitter judgment. You see everyone coming online, coming to Twitter. But the first thing that comes to your mind as a lawyer, especially if you are maybe lawyer to this previous employee or employer, is the fact that, was there a contract to, express your obligations or your relationship in this business? You should think of things like non-compete clauses. You should think of maybe NDA, trade secrets, all in this contract. Was there a contract? You can't just come and you just think, oh, I work with this person and I can't do the same thing this person did simply because I had worked with them. It's possible that you have the right to do that thing, but it all boils down to a contract. This is just an instance. There are several other contracts. I mentioned the supplier and manufacturing contracts, stating out there was this case recently, I can't remember, someone in China, right? You know how people do branded products maybe from China, and then this particular Nigerian had been sending her designs to her manufacturer in China. Unknown to her, the manufacturer decided to rebrand this and sell the same idea to another person. It didn't go, I can't remember the particular name, but at the end of the day, the first person who had the idea, the first person that sold all of this idea to the Chinese manufacturer, because they didn't have any contracts, lost her designs, lost her ideas to the Chinese manufacturer who sold that same idea to someone else. So you see, this person was obviously thinking, oh, there's someone out there copying me, but she didn't have the right contract in place to guide her business with the manufacturer. So maybe their defense would have been, oh, we're just doing same business with several other persons. But an NDA or a comprehensive contract between yourself and your manufacturer or your distributor or your supplier may just be what would have helped you. And when I'm saying your, I mean your client, if your client is the designer, because you're the lawyer. So, and the next thing you should look at licensing and collaboration. If or when you help your clients license their brand, you grant the rights to a licensing partner, that's a licensee, who can manufacture, market, and sell products bearing the licensor's name. So if you want to sell maybe luxury brands, if you want to sell luxury brands, oftentimes what that particular vendor, the vendor that wants to sell the luxury brand ought to do is to get license from the manufacturer. So we see in Nigeria, so many people saying they are selling Michael Kors, they are selling Louis Vuitton products. I'm not certain, I don't know, I'm not certain a good number of them have the license to do that. And other times they are probably selling counterfeited products, and that's yet another legal issue to consider as a lawyer when working with people in the fashion industry. Licensing contracts, like I mentioned, they oftentimes involve intricate legal details that must be negotiated. I think in every other contract, what's important, you have to actually negotiate all of these and put it expressly in writing, whatever your agreement turns out to be. And then aside IP law, because I mentioned I was going to focus on IP law in contracts. In law, in fashion, I beg your pardon, aside the law of contracts, intellectual property law, and commercial law, which should be areas of practice as lawyers that you should, be familiar with. You also have to be familiar with employment and labor laws, not just in the fashion industry. First of all, employment and labor laws generally, right? So if you have someone complain to you about the terms of their employment, maybe they are not allowed, okay, I would like to use copyright, for instance. The general rule is that if you create something as an employee, right? If you create a piece of work as an employee, the rights in that work, so long as you actually did it in the course of your employment, you use resources from your employer, and you do not have any written agreement stating otherwise, rights to all of that, all of those designs, all of those creative work, whatever fashion illustration, whatever you did, belong to your employer. And this is something that is really common in Nigeria. When someone resigns from from a fashion industry, from a fashion company, I beg your pardon, when someone resigns, the main issue that comes up is the works I created as a fashion designer, as a fashion illustrator in the course of my work with you, I want to own it. Or you see them display all of these works, and then the employer comes with a take it down letter. This is from using these designs because they belong to me. And the truth is, as a lawyer, if they come to you, you should advise them accordingly. The general rule is that in the course of your work as an employee, this work ordinarily should belong to them. Of course, unless you have a contract stating otherwise, which takes us back to the law of contracts again, right? So workers in fashion are entitled to rights such as minimum wage, working hours, and safe working conditions. And this, I mean, in a sane society, not trying to shame our society, but I know a lot of people do not follow these rules. Sometimes you just want to use people, if I must say in quotes, you want to use them. But if they have the opportunity to work with someone like you, if they have the opportunity to consult you as a lawyer, then they should know their rights. They should know they're entitled to so minimum wage, right working hour. You're not saying someone should work with you from 12 a.m. Although there are times you have to actually beat deadlines, but on some working conditions are not actually good for anyone at all, whether in the fashion industry or any other industry at all. And as fashion lawyers, you must have it in mind too that employment contracts for fashion professionals encompass key clauses. I mentioned non-compete. These clauses are very, very important. Non-compete, non-disclosure, and intellectual property ownership. I believe these clauses are very, very important because these are recurring issues every now and then you're hearing someone say, oh, my intellectual property rights, I own this particular design, or I'm not allowed to do so and so again because I worked in so industry, or someone is saying, oh, this worker copied my design. These are things that if you have the opportunity to draft a contract for your clients, you should consider this. Okay, so okay, I have to run through these quickly. I think this is the second to the last slide and I'll be out quickly. Precautions for branding and ads, right? When you're doing your ads, you know, we're in a world of everyone wants to trend on social media. So many people do not just do that without, because you think, oh, I'm online, I can just decide to post this, post that. But you have to be aware of deceptive practices. You can't post, you can't show off, you can't misrepresent to people. When I say you right now, I don't mean you as a lawyer, of course. I mean a designer or someone in industry experts, fashion industry, but you can't show off products or designs that are not yours. You can't advertise falsely. You can't claim to have something or to have created something or to own something when you do not actually own it. There are legal consequences to actions like this. Once upon a time, someone did a particular dress, it designed a particular dress for me. And after I put it on Instagram, a friend of mine told me, oh, I can do this same thing. Can I just use your picture, tag myself as the creator of this design? I don't know, so many other people will jump at that, will just say, yes, you can do that. But maybe because of my knowledge of this, I told the person and outright, no, you can't do that. You didn't create this. So I think it's in a polite way, of course, I don't think it's right that you show this. Of course, she could recreate something like that, but it's not right. And a lot of people do this. So there are legal consequences to this. Can be slammed with a lawsuit for actually falsely advertising a product or a design as if it's yours when it's not. They're labeling the products accurately. There's this thing about trying to brand your product. Some people purchase maybe mass products from a particular design, and then they decide to take off the labels and put their own design. To some people, it's okay, it's just business, no one knows. But in all honesty, you should know that this is you not being transparent to your clients. This is also misrepresentation in the business, and a lot of people do this, especially when they think, oh, this is a common design, anyone can actually pull this off. Why can't I just relabel this, repackage this? And there are actually laws, especially in the United States, there are laws that govern repackaging of products. Okay, fashion events and shows. Last slide. If you attended Arise Fashion Week last one, and saw so many designs and so many Nigerian creative designers, their works, and first thing that came to my mind is like, okay, this is beautiful. So many things must have been put together to bring this together, not just the design. So if you are in the fashion industry, and shows will definitely come up, not necessarily the big shows, even just runway shows. There are these things that you need to look out for on behalf of your clients. Protection of the design, protection of the photography rights. Okay, so many pictures will be taken of your client's models or other models online. Do you have rights to even reproduce that product? I saw Osas Igodalo's picture sometime from one event, and when she posted that picture, it was watermarked. It was watermarked to show the name of the photographer from a runway, because that photographer has rights. Yes, it's her picture. She was in a fashion event, but the photography rights belong to some other person on that. So it's good that you ensure that everyone is guided, whether participants in the show or the designer or the models, and there are contracts that you need to put in place for the venues. location release forms, model release forms. If you're working with models that are even models that are minors, that's the word. You need to get permission from their guardian or their parents. Of course, you don't just assume, oh, this person is a model, and then you just get into a contract with them. Model release form will be signed by their own parents. So these are things that they should consider. Even the planning and organization of the events. So of course, you're not an events planner, but as a lawyer, things may go wrong, and you need to put all of these into consideration if you are going to be successful in the fashion industry as a lawyer, of course. Then copyright issues. Okay, I already spoke about copyright issues, use of images. You need to also have all of these in mind when you're advising your clients. So I'll call it a wrap. As lawyers, we learn every day. So your best bet to succeed is to read as much as possible. Network in the right industry, because I mentioned in the beginning of this segment that succeeding as a lawyer in a particular segment, whether in energy, it doesn't necessarily have to be in the fashion industry, in any industry at all. You have to be very, very vast, very, very knowledgeable about the industry practices itself. So how do you get to know all of this? Aside reading, network with these people, be in the midst of people that matter to your business, the business of fashion law. So I'm going to encourage you to subscribe to the fashion law newsletter. Now subscribe to their newsletter, and every other day you get notified about the updates of things going on in the fashion. You will hear so many cases. Christian Louboutin, red bottom. Every now and then you're hearing someone is saying they don't own trademark rights to the red bottoms. Any other person can use that, or they don't own that color exclusively. That's an instance. Or Shane and Temu, you get to hear so many cases. And when you read about these cases, you will appreciate the legal aspect, because you would read the judgments, you read the claims, and you see, oh, you'll be so enlightened as to how these matters are being resolved, or what claims so many people have beyond what we can see, beyond the actual design or the actual creativity. There's a whole lot that has to go behind the scene that the judges do consider. And when you read about, I would probably have to drop this because I don't think you can access this link. I'll send an email like I did last week to you all with this link, so you can read through and probably watch this video about this Ugomonye case, so you can appreciate what I've said earlier. That's it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Ms. Omotayo. Thank you for that wonderful section. I want to say thank you to both our mentors, Ms. Bernice and Ms. Omotayo. Ms. Bernice gave us like an abstract overview of the fashion business, while Ms. Omotayo took us through a detailed step-by-step into the law aspects, majorly emphasizing on the law aspects of fashion business. So before we go ahead into our mentees presentation, I would just want our mentees to appreciate our mentors for that very insightful sections from them. Their presentation was very awesome. Very, very, very well detailed, and I'm sure they learned a thing or two. So I want to see some reactions in the chat box. I want to see some actions in those space. I want to see our mentees comment, give comments. Yes, I can see some already. I want to see more. Thank you for your comments. Okay. I would like our mentees to group 1 and group 2. I'm sure you are ready with your presentation. Group 1, you can go ahead and start your presentation. Please, each group has 10 minutes for their presentation. Please, I want you guys to stick with time so that we can be able to round up within the actual description of the time frame that we gave for the class. So please, group 1, if you are ready, you can come up with your presentation, and as much as possible, try and make it 10 minutes. Okay, group 1. Group 1 presenter.
Good evening, everyone. Hope you can hear me.
Yes, you are audible. Adeife.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm trying to share my screen. Give me 1 minute, please.
Okay, Adeife, are you still with us? Are you having some issues sharing your screen? Okay.
Okay. Yes, can you hear me?
Okay, we can hear you now.
Thanks so much. Good evening, everyone. I'm Adeife Omolumo, and it's my pleasure to present this speech on behalf of Group 1. On this topic, we'll be discussing, I'll give you two introduction, then I'll say something briefly about social rights, then the licensing and franchising. The fashion industry is one that is constantly evolving, creating new styles and trends. From clothing and dresses. And
Sorry to cut in, Adeife. We can barely hear you, and your screen is not visible. We cannot see your screen.
oh wow.
Yes, the cursor is it's there, but we can't see the slides.
This slide.
If it's possible, can we have a member from her group help share the screen while she makes the presentation if she's having a little issue doing that? Okay, we can see your screen now. Can you hear us? Hello?
Yes, I can.
All right, so you can continue.
Okay, thank you so much. Sorry for the issues. Okay, my name is Adeife, and I'll be presenting this topic on behalf of Group 1. And in the course of my presentation, I'll give a brief introduction, then highlight some rights, then talk about licensing and franchising. Hope you can still see my screen.
Yes, your screen is still visible.
Yes, please.
Okay,
Yes,
thanks
please.
so
We can
much.
see your slide, rather.
Okay, thank you so much. As we all know, the world of fashion is a captivating blend of artistry and commerce. And it is where, as people may say, where creativity meets the runway. And the fashion industry in Nigeria and Africa as a whole is booming. And as at 2020, it's recorded a value of $4.7 billion. And this industry has some key players such as designers, manufacturers, retailers, and some other players to the needs of customers. And particularly in Nigeria, what's actually brought the fashion industry into global limelight are designers such as Lisa Folawiyo, Diola Sago, by showcasing their works on national runway. The fashion evolves constantly, and people often say that sexual websites are the backbone of the fashion industry. This is because the fashion industry and intellectual property go in hand. Intellectual property law offers rights which designers can take advantage of, the exclusive rights to use and control access and to also profit from their creative works. So it's actually a valuable asset in the fashion industry. And some rights that are of particular importance in the fashion industry are trademarks, copyrights, patents, design, trade secrets, and designs. So I'll briefly of each of these IP rights. First is the trademark, which simply is a term, name, symbol, design, or color combination that's used to differentiate or identify one product from those of another business. So we all know popular trademarks as Louis Vuitton, Nike, and businesses that have registered this trademark enjoy selling able to chase product from those of other firms, preventing the likelihood of confusion in the minds of customers, and basically just preserving and benefiting from their good faith. So another IP and this protects and of and this essentially
Sorry, your network
any
is
It's breaking. How that is it better now?
Yeah, it's much better now.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I was I guess their patterns, ornaments, and colors. So essentially, when you're in multiple colors of fashion items, this is usually unreal than copyright law. Then next is patents. So this something that combines patents, or patents actually have in the sense that if design is novel and original, and design can be said to be scientifically feasible, such as technologies that incorporate into products. And these technologies include, let's say, let's be featuring textiles that are resistant to fire and water repelling textiles. When fashion designers make use of this kind of innovative materials, they can be protected under patent law. So the last copyright I'll be is trade secrets. And secrets is saying information a company not it's and then it's something such as formula or other common suppliers, players. This bit of information I can see because the designer and business.
Sorry about that. It seems the network, she couldn't continue with her network. Can we have the backup presenter for group one continue with the presentation, since it seems her network is poor over at her end? Can the backup presenter just come up and round up with the presentation before we have group two present? Who is the backup presenter for group one, I mean? Group one presenters, I can help you share screen while you present. Just come up.
Okay.
Okay, are you back?
If you can do that, that'll be great. Yes, I'm back.
Let me help you share the screen. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, please, what was the last thing I said? What are you here?
I think you were on patent, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, you were on the patent side of it.
Okay. Okay. So I was saying that patents are really isn't to your mind in the fashion industry, but patents come into play when you think about the kind of create fashion designs such as wrinkle-free fabrics, UV filtering textiles that are resistant to fire or water repelling textiles. So patents usually come into play when you want to protect the technology in those textiles that are used to create those designs. Then lastly, the last IP right I would be discussing is trade secrets. And trade secrets is essentially just information that a company does not wish to share with its competitors or generally members of public, such as a formula, a method, certain product characteristics, list of suppliers, manufacturing processes, and so on. And just to give a fashion firm a kind of economic advantage over other people. For example, we have Zara, which is a Spanish retail fashion chain, which uses a proprietary information technology system to shorten their production cycle to merely 30 days. And most of their competitors usually take up to 4 to 12 months. So aspects of my presentation is licensing. The fashion industry is a type of contractual agreement between a brand owner who could be referred to as a licensor, who grants permission to a third party referred to as a licensee to use the brand's trademarks, designs, or other intellectual property. And licensing is a smart strategy, which is often used by people in the fashion industry because it allows brands to expand their reach and to create new forms of revenue. It allows to invest in developing or manufacturing new products. And it also allows brands to tap into expertise and capabilities of licensees who may have specialized knowledge in those markets. And usually, licensing agreements licensor usually receives payments in form of royalties or upfront payments that are lump sums. And in agreement, we have exclusive licensing agreements whereby the licensor grants the licensee exclusive rights to its licensed products and services within a specific geographic region. We have non-exclusive licensing agreements, which allows to multiple licenses without any restriction. So the right is not exclusive. Then the last type of agreement is the sole licensing agreement, which allows the licensee exclusive rights to the licensed products or services within a specific region. However, in kind of agreement, still retains right to use the products and services. Then finally, the last aspect of discussing is franchising. And franchising has been designed to be an agreement or using to run more efficiently because the franchisor would provide the franchisee with information in the market regarding customer point of views and etc. And sometimes the franchisor could also help with initial capital contributions and also guide the franchisee through possible challenges it may face in the course of the franchise. So I hope my presentation has been enlightening, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to present on behalf of Group 1. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adife, for that presentation. You were not very audible all through the presentation because of the little network issue, probably from your own end. But we thank you all the same for that effort. Thank you for doing due justice to your presentation. So we'd like to have, before that, I want to see reactions from her group members. At least she did put in the effort into making sure that she had quite a knowledge on the subject matter. So let's just go straight into Group 2's presentation. Can we have the Group 2 presenter come up and make their presentation?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay.
Since
my name is Buluwatife, and I would like to share my screen. My screen. Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can see your screen.
All right. Good evening. My name is Oledi Buluwatife, and I'll be presenting on behalf of Group 2. So our topic is fashion business and law. So the fashion business in the fashion industry often, face
Hello, Buluwatife, can you hear us? Buluwatife, can you hear us? Group 2, if she's having issues, please can someone step in for her? The backup presenter, can you step in for her so that we do not waste time on your presentation also?
I'm the backup presenter. I'm trying to share my screen right now to continue.
All right, please help us and do that. Hello, backup presenter. We're still waiting for you.
We will not be able to share the screen because Bolu needs to stop sharing her screen before
Okay,
I
yeah.
can mine.
Yeah, all right. Bolu, please, can you stop sharing your screen? Okay, let me see if I can take over and share the screen myself. Okay, is my screen visible?
Not yet.
Sorry, can I?
No,
Not yet. Your screen is not visible. It's still loading Bolu's screen.
Okay. Bolu, can you stop sharing your screen if you can hear us?
I don't think she can because of the network. The fact that it's still loading, I think the network is really messing her up. I don't know if there's any other way we can do this.
Okay, is mine back on?
yours
Yes,
is on now.
Sorry, I didn't get you.
Yeah, it's on, it's on.
All right, you can continue.
Okay. So Bolu said the fashion industry has a particularly long cash flow and therefore needs financing. Financing is the major. Can everyone hear me, please? I don't know if my network. Let me not be talking without. Can everyone
Yeah,
hear me?
you're audible.
Okay. So
Yes, please. We can hear you.
financing is the major problem or the major crux of fashion industry as with all industries, and it plays a crucial role in the fashion industry. From capital investment, fashion companies need capital for designing, manufacturing, and marketing their products. That's all through the production process, right from manufacturing to marketing. Financing is essential to even purchasing materials. And also for budgeting and cost control, finance helps in creating budgets for various finance companies and ensures cost control to maintain profitability, as there's no use for a business if you are running at a loss. We also have inventory management. Managing stock levels and ensuring the right balance between demand and supply is vital in fashion. Proper financial strategies are required for inventory management. Then you also have pricing strategies and working capital. To summarize both, is basically about financing, helping to set the price for each product so that they can see their profits. Now, different avenues for sourcing finance. Fashion companies have different ways they can source their finance. Similar to any other business, the fashion industry relies heavily on its distribution network. The distribution process in the African fashion business is gaining traction over time as more boutiques and store owners recognize the worth of African designs and incorporate them into their products and selections. Depending on how it's used, distribution can boost a fashion company's revenue. You have types of distributors, that's the wholesale distributors, the internet, social media, and the catalogs. The next step would be to draft a distribution agreement between the owner of the work and the possible or potential distributors. Such agreements can be called exclusive or non-exclusive. An exclusive distribution agreement might apply if the product is distributed by just one person, that's a single distributor. The product owner is prohibited from using any other distributor to manage the distribution of his goods. So basically, that person that is given the right to distribute has distribution rights to has exclusive distribution rights, and no other person can distribute. For non-exclusive distribution, the product owner has numerous distributors rather, and have an arrangement. I want to tie it to companies. If I am a product owner, I can have just one distributor to distribute my products. And if I employ another distributor, that's under an exclusive distribution agreement. If I employ another distributor, that is an infringement, that's a breach of contract. So moving on from types of distribution, we have infringement and enforcement of fashion contracts. Infringement in Nigerian fashion business law primarily pertains to the unauthorized use of intellectual property such as trademarks and copyright designs. Trademarks are used to protect brand names, logos, and any other distinctive symbols associated with fashion business. Registering a trademark with the Nigerian Trademark Registry provides legal protection against unauthorized use by others. This helps in safeguarding the unique identity of a brand. A trademark can be, defined, or can be known as the identity of a brand. So if a trademark is what other brands would use to identify, talk of like Versace, that head of I think is Medusa and snakes, that's a trademark, and that person cannot make a product and put a similar design, because that would deceive the public into thinking that's a Versace product when it's not. Then copyright, I think the second one is copyright. Copyright law protects original. I don't know, the screen is off.
I don't know what's wrong with it. Sorry.
Enforcement of intellectual property rights in the Nigerian fashion industry is a challenge. For instance, in 2017, a Nigerian model based in New York sued Wema Bank PLC for allegedly using her photos commercially without her consent. In her 97 million naira suit, she claimed loss of a modeling contract with an American company due to the unauthorized use of her photo. She was subsequently awarded 10 million naira in damages. So their both case is a case of successful filing of an infringement suit where the plaintiff was awarded 10 million naira in damages. And enforcing fashion, I don't know why this screen is like this. Please give me a minute. Let me check my own slide from here. The slide is cutting off from your end, sir. Sir, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
It's cutting off from your end. I don't know why it's doing that. All right. I'm coming. Yes, I'll be reading from my end since I can't share my screen. Why my audio will be on? So we just finished the above case of a successful infringement suit where the plaintiff was awarded 10 million naira in damages. Then the next point is enforcing fashion and business laws in Nigeria requires a multifaceted approach, combining legal actions. Yeah, I can see it now, yes. Combining legal actions with proactive measures like registration, surveillance, etc. They include cease and desist letters. The cease and desist letter means sending basic to simplify it is in legal terms is like a letter given to the infringing party to stop infringing on the intellectual property rights of the owner. These letters inform the potential infringers of the legal consequences of their actions and may lead to an amicable resolution without the need for litigation. This is the first step before you start going for litigation. Then the next is litigation. When infringers persist in the activities, pursuing legal action through Nigerian courts become necessary. Litigation can be time-consuming and expensive, but it can result in injunctions and damages awarded to the rights holder. Another step in enforcing infringement is customs recordation. Fashion brands can record their trademarks with the Nigerian Customs Service. This empowers custom officials to seize counterfeit goods at the border to prevent them from entering the country. So meaning if you are importing counterfeit goods or any goods that is infringing on the rights of another, Nigerian Customs Service has the right to seize and impound that goods until you course correct. The next one is international treaties. Nigeria is a signatory to international agreements like the Berne Convention, the TRIPS Agreement, and the Paris Convention. These agreements provide additional avenues for enforcing intellectual property rights globally. Then we move on to alternative dispute resolution. Sometimes fashion brands may consider alternate dispute resolution methods such as mediation or arbitration to resolve IP disputes more efficiently. I would like to buttress that EDR is an alternative to litigation. That's when both parties do not want to go to courts due to various factors. Maybe they don't want to sour good business relationships, or they want to save litigation costs. They can go by way of EDR. The next one is public awareness and education. Collaboration with government agencies and industry association can help raise public awareness about parts of fashion agreements and infringement. The first mentor or the second, I don't know. She talked about people in Nigeria just wanting to make money. That they don't know that copyright subsists in their work. They're just looking for the monetary aspect of it. But with public awareness and education, both the copyright owners and potential infringers who are also oblivious of the fact that a law like this exists might be updated on certain existence of this law so that they don't fall victim to the law. And the next one is going back is that's page 13. Contracts in fashion business. In the fashion business, contract plays a crucial role in protecting the rights and interests of all the parties involved. Some common contracts in fashion business law include licensing agreements. This licensing contracts grants permission to use a brand name, logo, or designs in exchange for royalties or licensing fees. So I have to point out that licensing agreements can be an exception to copyright infringements. If someone takes you to court for maybe using their trademark or infringing the copyright in their work, but you have a pre-existing licensing agreement with the person, you can provide that as an exception. You also have distribution agreements. These contracts govern the relationship between fashion brands, distributors, or retailers. They outline the terms of the product distribution, pricing, territories, and marketing responsibilities. If you are a distributor in a contract in fashion business, you are not infringing on the right of the owner because the owner knows that you are distributing his work, that he's giving you permission rather to distribute his work. The next one is modeling contract. This contract establishes the terms and conditions between fashion models and agencies or clients. They cover issues such as compensation, usage rights, exclusivity, and non-disclosure agreements. I remember in the beginning of this session, one of our mentors talked about modeling agencies going to IDP camps and basically taking them abroad. I suspect these people don't have a very refined contract because, well, I think when she said when they are brought back, they have to reimburse the companies the money they used to take care of them and push them out. So in order to become or in order for the relationship between a modeling agency and a model to be streamlined, there has to be some sort of contract. Then the next is merchandising. Merchandising encompasses strategies such as pricing, special promotions, and attractive displays aimed at influencing customer purchasing designs to promote the sale of goods. This involves employing innovative measures to showcase products and captivate potential customers. That's advertising basically. Some of these kinds of contracts include sponsorship agreements. Fashion brands often enter into sponsorship agreements with events, influencers, or celebrities for promotion. These agreements define the terms, expectations, and compensation for the sponsorship. Co-branding or collaboration agreements. These occur when two fashion brands collaborate to create a new product or collection together. It outlines the terms of the collaboration, including branding, design, marketing, and profit sharing. For instance, this is if the two largest sports brands in the world, Nike and Adidas, come together to produce a new jersey or a new shoes. Before they go ahead with such endeavor, they have to sign a contract with regards how they will split the bill and split the bill for marketing and the profit. Think of it like, let me dive into the media industry. Think of it like Marvel and DC producing a movie together. That's just how it is. The next thing is franchising. Franchising is a marketing and distribution model where the brand owner, who is called the franchisor, grants individuals or a group of individuals known as the franchisees the authorization to operate a business and sell products using the franchisor established business system. Franchise agreements are structured with stringent terms to ensure consistent brand representation and operations. Franchising can be categorized in three main types. First one is business format franchising, where the franchisor grants franchisees the right to use a specific business format, operational procedures, or trademark rights. Then the next is product distribution, which resembles a supplier-dealer arrangement, where the franchisor permits franchisees to sell or distributes a product using the franchisor logo, trademark, and trade name, but typically without providing a specific business operating system. The next is manufacturing franchising, wherein the franchisor allows franchisees to produce products and sell them under the franchisor brand agreement. I don't know why the screen is not sharing. Between fashion brands and manufacturers for the production of clothing, accessories, and other fashion items. The manufacturing agreement should encompass the following key clauses: product quantity, payment, the product quantity, that's the amount of products in question, payment modalities, how the payment will be made, delivery dates, product standards, manufacturer information, intellectual property rights, etc. And thank you. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you to all my group members, and I'm sorry for the slight network issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Justice. I want to say a big thank you to Group 2, both the main presenter, Oluwatife, and Justice. Well, obviously, since this is a virtual space, there's a tendencies for things like this to happen. You may be tempted, like me, to almost use the Nigerian slang or phrase like village people to address the network issue, but I seriously want to apologize to both our mentors and our mentees for the little glitch during the presentation. But moving forward, that was a great job from both presenters. Moving forward, we would like to get some of the comments from our mentors on the presentations that were made by both groups. We would like to go first with Ms. Bennis. Ms. Bennis, please, can you come and give an overview of the presentation made by Group 1?
Hello.
so long. Anyway, so I have a lot of comments. I wrote a lot of things down, and so I just pray that I can recall. Okay, the first thing I would say is, for presentation, I think it should be more about your understanding and knowledge rather than reading the slides. I think the slides are a lot, with a lot of information. So I feel like when you guys are putting the slides together, it's called slides for a reason. It's just bullet points. I think the other mentor had a very precise slide, just with straight points, and then you explain. Because sometimes you are reading these things, and when you're reading it, it's almost like, I feel like, oh, you don't really understand. Maybe you don't get it. You're not getting context of what you're reading. So I feel like you should break it down to what you understand in simple English. Like I don't know really, but that's just my thoughts. I think Group 2 did well in doing that. Maybe it's a bad network, but I think it would even ease us when we are listening if you are really explaining from what you really understand, right? You guys mentioned a lot of things, and there's another thing I want to say is, one of the problems we have in the fashion law space is that a lot of times people try to be very abstract. People are always trying to use foreign brands. And from my knowledge and experience, I realized that what is really lacking in fashion law is not fashion law, but the African context of fashion law. So we don't know, we like to say, oh, it's happening in UK, it's happening in US, it's happening everywhere. But here there is no movement. Why? Because we are not exactly putting the law into the African context. So when I went to study, one of the major things I was seeing was they have a very Eurocentric and a white man's idea to fashion. And every time they talked about a business model or they talked about something, I would say that this is not exactly how it happens in Africa. For instance, there is the couture and luxury and everything that you do as, cadres of fashion. However, for us as Africans, right, couture is our way of life because we make ashwebi every Saturday. We go and make tailored-made wares. Like, it is not anything so special. Yes, there are many people who have made premium careers from making ashwebis, but I'm just saying that ashwebi is a regular thing. However, there it is seen as the topmost top of the fashion business model. So you have to understand how to put things in the African context. When you start doing that, you will have a very broad understanding of fashion law. You will have a very close relationship. You will see that it is not as far away as you think. So when you were talking about licensing, merchandising, and many things, co-branding, I feel like you're just talking about the definition and you're not really getting the African, perspective. For instance, an example of co-branding that happens here in Africa is celebrities and fashion brand. For instance, if I can remember, you can see Osasi Godalo and Zephans and Co. They always go hand in hand when they are launching a particular product. This is not an endorsement or anything. Yes, it looks like it, but it's more of she's a celebrity, people like her body and all of that, and we're launching this brand with her. So sometimes when fashion brands want to launch their brand or collection, they tend to bring a celebrity to it. It is not exactly an endorsement, want to endorse it from you, because they can actually do other things. It's almost like they are coming together to bring stuff together. So it can exactly fall under co-branding in Nigeria or in Africa, in the African context, because that's what I've seen replicate itself. There's many times that Deswa and other brands, Lady Biba, would do a particular collection together. They will use her as like the whatever. It doesn't really look like an endorsement contract. It looks more like a co-branding contract. But because we are trying to look at the foreign aspect of all of these things, we tend not to see it. There's also licensing, right? We like to see licensing as, oh, somebody is trying to give my name and copyrights. No, it's too far. If you come to the Nigerian context, licensing is when a brand say, I am actually a fashion designer and I make clothes and I want to move into another product category. For instance, I'm moving from let me use a Nigerian brand, Andreyama. She makes clothes. That's what we know her for. Right? However, she has launched into a new product category where she's making shoes, she's making bags, and she's making earrings and all of those things. That's not, obviously, she doesn't have the expertise to make bag. Maybe she has the creativity to do that, but to do the actual production, she has to outsource that production to a manufacturing company. That process is them licensing them to do whatever. It falls under in the Nigerian context, but abroad it's a bit different because their manufacturers are brand in themselves. If you Google top brands and you look at the people who are producing for them, you realize that the producers or the manufacturers are actually brands. Not even, they may not be popular, but they are popular manufacturing brands. Do you get? So that's why you see all of this. So you should learn to always put everything in the African perspective, because that's what is missing in our academics, in every single thing, the African perspective towards fashion law. You get? For me, when I look at the fashion industry, I see that there is a problem. Yes, we have a problem with the law, but there's a problem in our production and supply and creativity of our talent. If you see, most people, for instance, I would say beauty brands, for instance, when they want to make beauty products, they only say, like I think the other mentor mentioned this, they only go and buy a white label product and put their name on it, and all they have is the trademark. Oh, I'm so sorry about my light. All they have, right, is the trademark to protect. However, our laws can actually protect the container of that particular beauty product, but they have lost that by going to buy the product from somebody else. However, abroad, the fashion designer or the beauty brand would design the container, the content, every single thing, the way it looks, a finished product. However, there's a cut in our production process. There's a division. So what our designers and our beauty entrepreneurs and people do is they cut the supply chain. I don't blame them. It's the economy. They just go and buy stuff and do it halfway. So they are not really foundational designers like the foreign people. So they can enjoy industrial design. This Coke, for instance, Coke is protected by the body. Most beauty entrepreneurs in Nigeria are not protected by the body of the container. They don't have that right. So when you look at the fashion space, you now see that the only thing that they have to protect is trademark. You get? It's like software guys would always complain that, oh, our code cannot be patented, our this cannot be this. But the truth is, you cannot build a particular solution with already existing tools. So it means that the creativity is already halfway. The people who are really making the money are the people really developing the software from scratch. But Nigerian guys will just build one or two together, integrate different applications into their software, and they expect a patent protection. But that's not it, really. Why the other guys will start coding from the scratch. That's what I'm trying to say. So most of the time, the problem we have in the fashion industry is we have half production. Maybe that's the simple way to put it. Most people just buy and put their name on it. Most people don't think about the formulation. It's when you look at Dario of a Nigeria girl, she now has she deals with her formulation. She goes to look at the container. You see that somebody is going deeper than the regular people. So that's why it looks like there is no law, but there is actually law for this. So when you're presenting, I think that you should always try your best to look very closely at the African and the Nigerian markets. There are examples. Maybe there is no law. Maybe there are no judgments, but there are examples of all of these things in some way or form that you can find. Like the case you mentioned about the model. The model, her name is Anonsike. Her father is a lawyer. That's why she was able to get that particular judgment. However, I know that for a fact that I have advised many models, come, let us go. You have a right, but most of them don't go. Do you get? And sometimes most of them are discouraged by lawyers. I have to say, sometimes lawyers just assume that, oh, the money is too much, so everybody will just go their separate ways. I encourage every time I'm talking to designers that there is space for you in something, some way, some form. There is space. Or maybe sometimes I tell them, you have to rethink your product. I think I was advising a particular fashion brand, and they complained about, you have to ignore the noise. They complained about their design, being stolen. So they designed and they gave it to a China person to produce a Chinese manufacturer. And some other Nigerian designer went to that particular and they gave the same design and stuff and all of that. Many, many things. Like, no, that's not the case. They actually went to a particular Chinese manufacturer, very exclusive, but they did not have an exclusive contract. So they collected that particular design from Chinese because it was cheaper to do than design their own. So they collected the Chinese whatever. After 1 year after the launch, another fashion brand went to that same Chinese manufacturer to collect the design and make the exact same clothes that they were making. And the truth about the matter is that, well, the design does not belong to them. I advise them, you need to start taking measures. It looks like what is expensive, but in the long run, to pay you, to protect, to enjoy industrial design, you have to design your textile itself. Top Nigerian designers design their textile so that they can enjoy the already existing laws. So there are laws, but the only problem is, first, have production, and then, of course, lack of enforcement. People don't want to go to courts. They don't have the funds. So many other things. So when you're talking about fashion law, try as much as possible to put it in the Nigerian context. Don't mention Dior, don't mention Chanel. Go to Nigerian brand pages. You would see that they are doing something in some way or form that looks like this. I don't think Viola Sego designed her fabrics. So yes, but I would mention something about her soon. So there's no light in my house. I'm trying to see if I can remember some of the things that, there's like, so they mentioned something about labeling, right? And I will mention two things that labeling covers. One, sustainable choice and protection of consumer. The major reason why labeling is very important is because people are very big on buying sustainable fabrics. So you have to disclose what's your fabric, your fabric content, your fabric composition. So, because sometimes it is plastic you get, and it's not sustainable in its nature, and people don't want to wear those things, right? So you have to disclose. You owe it to your consumers to actually disclose. Then also labeling, especially when it comes to e-commerce, you have to, if I'm writing terms and conditions, I have to state it clearly to the designers that you have to tell me everything exactly, how the color looks. Don't tell me blue and it comes out lilac. It has to be very clear, because you want to avoid the situation of what I ordered versus what I got. So that's where the FCCPC comes in also. So it's very, very important that you emphasize on labels. Also, there are general standards, the Standards Organization of Nigeria. I'm very aware that they are coming up with some standards that will apply to the fashion industry and all those things. But I know that they have standards for labeling and garment care and all of those things, but they are not exactly putting it out there. Yeah, so what other areas did I see that you mentioned? Yes. Okay, marketing, right? Did anybody mention marketing? I think you mentioned something about marketing that made me write this. So yes, nobody mentioned authorized distribution. With distributorship, I don't know how to explain that, but like distribution contracts, there's what they call authorized distribution. Very important. Authorized distribution and selective distribution. They are terms that are used very much in the fashion space. So selective distribution is, most times fashion houses, luxury brands actually put out criteria for distributors to actually meet before they tell you, you can be an authorized distributor or something like that. And we have many distributors in Nigeria actually coming in. There is Tom's coming into Nigeria. There's Adidas coming into Nigeria. There is Nike that's already in Nigeria, and all those other brands, right? They are authorized distributors or dealers of those things. So that those are contracts that are like, very specific. You also did not mention territory when you're talking about exclusive distribution. Territory is very important. I don't think any brand will give you exclusive distribution that is very, very wide. So usually it is for territory. So they will give you the territory of Africa and Middle East. They'll give you territory of Europe. They'll give you other things. So yes, it's very important that you understand that territory is a very important aspect of that. So yes, I think I heard marketing. I can't remember, but there's what they call green claims. Green claims, right? A lot of brands are very guilty of that in Nigeria, where they say in their marketing strategy that they are sustainable, or let me not use the word sustainable. They say they are natural. I don't know if you see it in beauty brands, especially, or beauty or skincare product or all those things. You see them saying or calling themselves natural organics or organics cream, or they just use certain words that connote that they are from nature or they are, natural. You see it where brands, even Nike, they will say their shoe is 50% recycled, something. But I know that because the fashion industry is very international. By very international, I mean that a lot of things that happen internationally affects us. So it's not that we don't have any local regulations, but they are generally acceptable standards that will naturally affect a fashion brand, because you own an e-commerce platform and people from all over the world are patronizing you. So you have to be very careful as to what you're putting out. So you have to know, as a lawyer, really, you have to understand what green claims are and what greenwashing is. Green claims is you saying that you have green and sustainable pipeline or supply chain. You don't kill people, you don't kill animals, you don't pollute the society, you don't do so many things when you produce, right? That's what you're saying. You're trying to tell your customers that we are 50% natural, or we are sourced from a natural source. Just, you know how white people can be, right? If you use those words or you name your brand those things, you are sort of like making a green claim. And for every green claim that you make, right, you have to have backings, you have to have certifications, you have to have a laboratory certified that this is actually true. You have to have organizations telling you that this is what you've done and we agree. Where you don't have all of those things, it transcends to greenwashing. It means it's actually fake. It is not true. So yeah, so a lot of beauty brands, I'm sure you saw how they call out the very black guy, I think, talked about it as regards what's her name now? The beauty brand. So many beauty brands in Nigeria are very guilty of that particular thing. Our brands have not gotten there yet, but I think fashion brands treating people too. They sort of like do a lot of things there, and they would lie about some things might not exactly be thrifted, but who knows, because their prices are actually very ridiculous. So yeah, it's something that you have to really consider. I think I touched on majority of the things that you mentioned, and if I'm leaving them out, I most likely will mention them again when we answer the questions that you sent. So
yeah, all right, thank you very much, Ma. I'm sure both groups are doing well to make observations into everything you said, and they will be more inclusive in their presentations moving forward. We would like to have Ms. Omotayo also come and give her own observations into the presentations that were made by the two groups. Ma, we would like to have your observation, Ms. Omotayo.
Hi, everyone. Good job, especially to the second group, because I couldn't really hear the first group, but I got to read your slides. So good job, everybody. And I hope you understood what you researched on, because it's one thing to research upon something and it's another thing to understand. Even myself as your mentor, I would say I'm still learning. Everyone is still learning. So most of what I would have said today or I said tonight is based on my own practical experience alongside the knowledge of the law. So I would just like to generally state that both groups, all you need to work on, if you're certain this is what you want to do, because I don't know if there are people that are still in law school now. When I say law school, I mean undergrads, and if you're not certain yet if this is what you want to do, but if you're certain this is what you want to do, then there's a whole lot of work beyond just the slides. And when I say just the slides, just the content of what is written here. Last week, I mentioned something. I said there's what we call law as it ought to be and law as it is. So there's law in writing, law in your research, what you've learned, and law as it is in practice. So from everything you have said so far, and like what the other mentor mentioned, we should bring it back home, because most of what you'll be doing will be practiced here in Nigeria. And the truth is that intellectual property law generally, fashion law in the fashion business is still, in Nigeria, is not, I say it's not all encompassing just yet. I believe so many people are just doing things as they come. Mostly people are just interested in making money, like I mentioned. So I think if you're going to be in the industry working as a lawyer, it's your job to separate things from how it is and how it ought to be. Separate things from what you have learned here. not separate entirely, of course. You put what you've learned into practice, but you also have to understand what's obtainable practically. And then I would like to speak about one of the groups mentioned is it contracts on policies. I think it's policies. I'd just like to touch on refunds and returns. What's common in the Nigerian fashion industries? Almost every other entrepreneur, every other fashion designer has this no refund, no return on their bio. And it's really embarrassing because that's unlawful. I understand some of them believe that that maybe clients have cheated them in the past, or clients have been rude to them in the past, and they do not want to lose in business. But if you're going to be engaged, if your services are going to be engaged as a lawyer, these are part of the things you need to speak about. The Consumer Protection Act, if I'm right, it's unlawful for you to say you're not going to refund to a client or refund to any consumer at all. So if you're going to have to represent any clients, anyone in the fashion industry at any point in time, you see this issue of refund and return, it's your job to analyze and explain to them how unlawful it is for you to just say you're not doing no refunds. Of course, you should have a policy in place, and the lawyer can actually draft the right policy that would help their client. So you can say refund is subject to so, or refund is part in so circumstance. You do not just say there's no refund at all entirely. That's absolutely wrong. And that's one of the common practices in the fashion industry in Nigeria. Then something else I'd like to talk about. Okay, someone mentioned something about okay, you already spoke. The other speaker spoke about licensing. So I think that's all I need to touch on, basically. I was going to talk about licensing, but she spoke very well about it. So there's nothing to add to that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Omotayo. Thank you, our mentors, for giving your overview and your oversights based on the presentation that were made by the presenters and the group in whole. All right, moving forward, I want to apologize. There's no, where I am right now, we are out of electricity, so you may not necessarily be able to see my face or anything, but I want to encourage those that are in places where there's a little bit of lightning. If you can, please turn on your video so that we can have that in the live stream video. So we'll be moving forward to the question and answer segment of this session. So we'd like to have our mentees throw in their questions. If there are questions you have based on the section that we just had from our mentors, and there are maybe certain areas you need clarification on, would like you to throw in your question. You can ask live questions, or you can drop your questions on the chat box. I saw someone already put a question there, right? So if it's possible, right, we'll take that after we are done taking live questions. So if there are live questions, please, you can raise your hand and we'll call you out to ask your question. So are there any questions?
I see one here already, so maybe I just take that. So
okay. Okay. Let me just go ahead and read the questions and direct it to the mentors. The first question here is, good evening, Miles. Thank you so much for your input regarding fashion and law. My question is, how progressive is fashion law in Nigeria, considering the specific laws that affect the industry? We would like to have Ms. Omotayo first go on that question before we have Ms. Bernice.
Okay, sorry, I missed that. How progressive
Sorry, let
It's
me get back to
fashion
you.
law.
Yes.
Okay, it's in the chat box. How progressive is fashion law? I think, can we measure that right now? I would say somewhat relatively. We can't really say we are there yet, but I believe we're not where we used to be. I would like to use everyone is woke now, or everyone is more enlightened than before. Of course, we are not like the European countries. We're not like the big fashion brands in the United States or other European countries. But I believe somehow, especially with the recurring mistakes that have been happening in the industry, the recurring issues, and the fact that people now know their rights. People now know that, okay, it's not just about making money. The enlightened ones, of course, not everyone. Like when I mentioned earlier, I spoke about the Ugomonye case. I was actively involved in that particular case. And as at that time, the brand owner was not aware of what he really was supposed to do. But I believe because of the mistake, because of the issue that came out of that case, he has addressed so many other subsequent issues that may arise legally. So what I foresee that's happening in Nigeria is everyone is trying to learn from the past mistakes, but there are still so many things we need to work on. And for programs like this, I believe enlightenment would help, so that brand owners in Nigeria don't know that it's beyond just the making of money. You see the issue of counterfeiting and then intellectual property rights in the industry. So many people are not aware of this. People just say, oh, this person is copying my brand, and everyone just runs to Twitter and makes a fuss about it and make noise, and they're not actually coming down to address the legal issues specifically. So your question, we can say it's progressive relatively. I don't know how I'm going to measure it, but I would just like to say definitely a work in progress even with the live fashion shows, and that at least like the Arise fashion show I mentioned, this kind of brand, you know, definitely they have lawyers involved in things like this, in shows like that. So it's maybe a percentage of a few percent of the industry stakeholders, the fashion industry stakeholders, that actually are aware of their rights and the right thing to do. So some people are aware, and they unfortunately use that only for their own benefits and to their disadvantage of probably their employees or people around them, while some other people are actually aware and they're using their knowledge of the law, using their knowledge of their rights to not just, work with other people, but to safeguard and protect their brand. So with time, I believe we'll get there. We'll get there with time, yeah.
All right. Thank you very much,
I
Ms.
hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Omotayo. Ms. Bennis, please, you have any comments on that question? Ms. Bennis, can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you are audible now.
I think that aligns with what Omotayo has said. Like, it's relatively growing, right? But I would say this: if I'm to take an insider look to the fashion industry, I would say that there is the market for it. Honestly, when I started my practice, right, I didn't want to start as a fashion law firm. I just wanted to start as startup lawyer and all of that thing. But the more that I am doing it, the more I realize that I don't want to stress myself again. Let me just focus on fashion law and startups. Like, by startup law, I mean like fashion technology and the likes, because to be honest, because of the work that I do in the fashion industry, it has just pushed me towards that direction. And everybody coming looks like a fashion designer, a fashion startup, a fashion something, or fashion organization. So I told you that for the audience sake, for client's sake, there are a lot. And trust me, you will be tired. There are a lot. But from the practice aspect, right, I would say that you have to actually be somebody with a social impact mindset. And that's what I say. Every fashion lawyer, most lawyers, but like I'll say that if you want to focus on the fashion industry, you have to take a social impact approach. You can't go there and be like, oh, I'm a lawyer, people should. You have to be willing to share your knowledge, give knowledge, because they don't know. The major reason why we started the Fashion Law Institute was because as a firm, I was getting a lot of fashion law clients, I was getting, people in that space. Or even down to the educated people, the brands that you think they are supposed to know. When I talk about a lot of issues, they are surprised and they're like, in my mind, I'm just like, you should know these things, but they don't really know. So you have to actually have the willingness to educate. Education is the best way to sell yourself or sell your market. So you have to have that mindset. You have to be willing to share. And that's why we decided that, okay, since these people don't want to, from the law firm perspective, right, they don't want to pay for this thing, let's now use it as our CSR, let's use it as an educational platform. And that's why the Fashion Law Institute started, to share knowledge about that. And to be honest with that, I know that there is progress already. So when you talk about customers, the markets, everything, I promise you, every day we are seeing one project, one administration, innovation in the fashion space. And yeah, if you can hear me still, considering that my network is unstable, but yeah, I know that there is a lot of people, but do they know that they need legal services? That's where you come in. You have to link the customers to legal services. That's your job right now. Before you start bringing legal services, then you have to link it. Like they are there, but they're on their own. You have to bring them to. I remember we're planning the Fashion Law conference, coming up soon. And I promise you, the amount of fashion schools and fashion designers that have sent me emails and I've sent emails to, I'm like, so they really exist in Nigeria. There are a lot. In fact, I have to tell myself, we are at capacity. Let's forget about anybody, So you should know that there is the market for it, but you have to link them with legal services. They have to want your services. And that's where you come in, and that's where social media comes in. And that's where awareness and education comes in as a lawyer.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bernice, for your contribution to that question too. So we'll be going straight into the questions that were asked by the mentees while they were making the research for their assignments. And I'll just be taking it one at a time, and I'll be throwing it to our mentees, to our mentors rather, to see if they can do justice to those questions. Our first question here is, what is the impact of artificial intelligence in the fashion industry? What is the impact of artificial intelligence in the fashion industry? Ms. Omosa, I would like to go first on this question. Okay, sorry, you are still muted.
Okay. It's a very interesting question. I don't know. I don't know how I didn't read through the questions earlier, but AI is really touching on everything right now, not just the fashion industry, but I would like to say the impact will be just like in every other creative industry. There are pros and cons to it, right? So the positive aspect of it is the fact that you can use AI to generate new ideas, to generate new creative designs that would help you, that would, probably help in your business. Probably, I wouldn't say, because I'm a fan of human intelligence. Of course, everyone needs AI to work with. You need AI at some point, but I would say it can't take the place of the real human creativity, the touch of human emotions. Some of these creative artists or creative fashion illustrators do things they are inspired by everyday relationship with people, everyday things around nature, things that are around them. So you can't entirely rely on artificial intelligence as a creative person, of course, but it could help you, maybe say inspire you in some type of way. So I wouldn't say AI is very, very, the impact is so much so positive, or will be so much so positive in the fashion industry. And then the downside for me would be even in the music. Sorry, I'll have to just digress a bit to the music industry and come back. Even in the music industry, you are seeing where people are complaining that artificial intelligence is almost taking over the music production segment. So you are ruling out the use or the power a music producer has, right? So I'm saying this because even in the fashion industry, we have people that maybe if you're a fashion designer or you're a fashion vendor, and you ordinarily would have employed some illustrators to do your work. With the introduction of AI into your work, you may decide to dispense with some of this stuff, but it's left for your own particular branding purposes. Your brand, if your brand is big on actual creativity that is relatable with your culture or with people around you, then artificial intelligence may not really work for you. So there are pros and cons to it. But for me, I would rather you stick as a creative person to your own real, actual creativity from your own mind, of course.
All right. So thank you very much, Ma. I don't think Ms. Benis is on the call anymore, but without that, that will not be an issue. We'll just have Ms. Omotayo help us with the 2 questions that are left. So the second is, in the ever-evolving world of e-commerce and social media, what are the legal aspects I should be aware of regarding online sales and digital marketing? That is the second question from the research questions.
Legal aspects to be aware of. I think the first speaker mentioned something about this, but I would like to just touch on this briefly. Licensing, ownership of intellectual property rights, protection and policing of your rights, legal aspects, generally the intellectual property rights. So you have to look at how to safeguard, because these days, everything is free. Everything is almost readily available out there on the internet. Everyone can see, oh, I like this particular design, take a screenshot, send it to your tailor, and they recreate it and no one is complaining about it. But what stands you out is the fact that you're able to pick up that particular creative thing and protect it. So now there was a time I don't know if you know about this, is it 1,000 yards or 1 million yards? I can't remember this particular gele design, right? There was this particular design that you use 6 yards of Ankara to make the gele. Before it became rampant, the particular person that started it, I stumbled upon her Instagram bio at some particular point, and she had to put it there boldly. So this is like it's your duty to take charge, to police your own intellectual property. So she actually had it written on her bio boldly, the first person to ever do ... Because there's a whole lot. So you can also take precaution by watermarking, although there are people that are readily able to take out watermarked products. I had an instance of a friend who had designed some abayas. She recreated some abaya from Dubai, and then while she marketed herself, some other vendors stole her pictures and used same picture to market their own work. So you can actually sue for image rights infringement. It's less for you to know your right. You can sue for image rights infringement. That's someone is using your own image and your likeness without your consent. You can actually send a cease and desist letter, because most times things in the fashion industry, entertainment business, don't make it to the Supreme Court. If you even see they make it to high court, then maybe someone is just trying to show, oh, I have the right to do this. Most times we end up settling out of court. We've not gotten to that level where you say, okay, the Supreme Court is making a particular decision in this fashion related business. But of course, it's your duty to secure all of your creative works, like every other creative work. It's your duty to have contracts in place. It's your duty to have, like now, if you're looking at, you mentioned e-commerce, if you're going to put your creative works, your designs on anyone's platform or on your own website, there are policies that you must put. So many policies, terms and conditions, refunds and return, guarantees, warranties. So many of these policies have to be drafted out properly by you, the lawyer, to help safeguard your clients. So if you have a startup come to you, it's your job to advise them accordingly. And it's also your job to make them know that they have that duty, regardless of the fact that they have a lawyer in place. They have that duty to police their rights, look out for infringers, and look out for how you can enforce your rights against any infringer. I hope I answered your questions. Yes.
All right. Thank you very much, Ma, for helping us with that question. I noticed Ms. Bernice is back on the call, so I would like her to help us with the last question, and I will just be throwing it directly to her. The last question is, are there specific legal requirements and regulations I should consider when manufacturing and sourcing materials for my fashion products? Ms. Bernice, can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, you are audible.
Oh, wow. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Ma.
Oh, okay. My network. So the question was, what are legal steps to consider for sourcing and manufacturing and all of that? So I think I mentioned one of the things you have to consider is, like I mentioned before, sustainability and environmental regulations and all of those things. But I will mention that again. I will talk about sustainability as regards leather goods. So there are a lot of leather brands, like leather goods brands in Nigeria. We have a whole lot of them actually, and we are actually known for producing a lot of leather. However, if we're going to be exporting, if fashion brands will be exporting, one of the things that they have to consider, because I know that there's an international regulation for that, is supply chain transparency. I know you guys have seen the agitations of animal welfare. So people don't like when you kill animals to make bags and all of those things. So one of the things that they will consider is, how transparent is your supply chain? Are you actually killing any animal to get your leathers? Who is dying in place of what? It looks like a very trivial issue, but it's as big as not even getting any fashion brand funding if they find out that, oh, you have some practices that are not in line with their movements, you get. So a lot of fashion brands are very careful when it comes to leather. So they would rather go for vegan leather. That's leather that was made in the lab, something that was artificially made, than something that you have to kill an animal for. So it's a major area, especially in the leather goods area, because I know leather goods is a very high selling fashion product. There is also, I mentioned labeling, and labeling requirements is very important. And I mentioned before that the standard organizations, they have all of these requirements that you're supposed to meet, but to be honest, they probably would not make it very public because they want you to come to them to interpret those international standards. There's also product safety. I mentioned before that we have to disclose what our fabric contains. You can't just be buying, and that's how brands actually put themselves in harm's way. They don't know the content of the material. They don't know if it's plastic. They don't know if it's nylon. They just go buy stuff and they call it different things. Cashmere. There's one they call it. There's a popular material name they call it. They just call it different things, right? Without necessarily saying what the material composition is. So one of the things you have to consider is what exactly these fabrics I'm buying and I'm sourcing. what are they made of? Those are the things you have to consider. And that's because most of them are trying to outsource their manufacturing. If they were actually buying locally made products and materials and fabrics and stuff, they probably wouldn't have that problem. But yeah, because I mean, our local techniques are not exactly as harmful, you get. So yeah, those are like things you have to really consider when you are manufacturing. But then of course there's manufacturing contracts. If you are going to do, of course, the half production that we are used to, manufacturing contracts usually, right, people do it, people get these things, people get it done, but like manufacturing contracts, sometimes you would want to, so most fashion brands are learning now to go to educated fashion and manufacturing hubs. I know of a lot of lawyers that actually even have manufacturing hubs in Lagos and outside Lagos. Yeah. So they do things the right way. But those people used to go to Yaba to go and produce, used to go to all those places. I'm not sure if they bring manufacturing contracts to their contractor, the person will even really don't talk of signing. So yes, I mean, of course, you'll be advising your clients to go for a higher leveled manufacturing house. So but I know that like OSC, those manufacturing houses that are top known, they applied all these things. So yes, those are like the major things that you have to also consider. Currently, exportation is not very favorable to Nigerian brands, like I said, because there are a lot of unfair trade policies. Because over the years, right, one of the things that we lacked expertise in as Africans is we do not know how to negotiate trade policies. We don't even understand what trade policy is talking about. So when you're talking about treaties and all of those things, most of them are not exactly in our favor. So sometimes lawyers will be like, oh my God, I hope somebody can hear me there. I'm just rapping.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So yeah, so those trade policies and all of those things, most people do not really understand the implication of those things. When I first became a lawyer, I would think that, oh, it's good, let's unify the law. I still think we should unify those things, but what is the effect on professional services? Ask yourself, like, what exactly would lawyers in Nigeria stop getting funds for? Will they stop getting businesses? Do you get? If they unify all the systems, European lawyers can do it. I can tell you for a fact that we have more foreign people doing trademark than Nigerian lawyers. You'll be shocked. If you want to register business in Ghana or in different countries across Africa, or you want to expand your business, these professional services to expand across Africa is not provided by Africans, it's provided by white people. So there was a time that a fashion brand wanted to expand, right? Went to do some Angola registration. I had to get somebody in the US to do a registration that me in Nigeria, in Africa, that we share. So there's a lot of trade policies that are not exactly in our favor, and we need to actually harmonize those. And this is just me talking from the agitation standpoint, or what ought to be, you get. But I know that that's like the issue around export regulations. A lot of people getting their goods, rejected when they want to export it, and all of those things. Yeah. So those are the things that I think that most people will consider, really. And every other thing, I think we've mentioned them before.
All right, thank you very much, Ma. Thank you for answering that question.
And actually, I cannot add something. There's something that I forgot to mention, because somebody mentioned something about Diola Sego on the group chat. And I wanted to say that Diola Sego comes in under advertisement. So I'll tell you a very brief story. I don't know if anybody has been following Diola Sego for a very long time. She sort of like did a campaign for one of her bestseller clothes, and that's the Komole, right? Those Komole Oleku that was like that she, changed and rebrand and everything else. But she did a campaign for that particular dress, and she used white models to advertise that particular clothes. And it caused a lot of rift on social media. A lot of people called her out. Why is she using white models? Her argument was basically that her target markets are not Nigerians. She basically wanted to project that white people can actually wear African clothes, and just like the way we wear theirs without them even projecting it, you get. So she wanted to do that, but it went wrong because people said oh, she doesn't care about local content, so many things like that. And that particular campaign was taken off social media, right? So that's like the problem that she had as regards marketing. So there are a lot of ethical consideration when it comes to marketing. That's the point I wanted to make. And also, I don't know, I think I'm very sure of this one. The advertising acts, recent advertising acts, say something about not using of local models and Black models in advertisement. So if Diola Sego did that in 2023, I'm sure that maybe the ANCON Act or the AMCON, the people in charge of enforcement of that particular provision, would probably fine her for doing so because she used white people. So the point is, yes, she, had something to do with, fashion and that's why I said local context. Nobody really talks about all of those things, but it really happens. So marketing, when you're marketing, you have to be careful of ethical, consideration and of those things. Yeah, I just thought I should mention that.
All right, thank you very much, Ma, for giving us detailed insight to that question. Okay, I think we are done now, right? But before we go, I want to say first a very big thank you to our mentor, Miss Bernice, for coming here and sparing us 2 hours of her time to come give us what I would describe in my own words to be out of this world, mind-blowing information on the fashion industry. Like Miss Omotayo would say, that we may not necessarily be able to exhaust knowledge in this line or in this area, but we can, within the last 2 hours, they have been able to corporately give targeted, very targeted, detailed explanations into what would be necessary for us or for the mentees to take advantage of going into the fashion space So before we go, I would like our mentees to just once again, just show some reactions in the chat box with emojis and with words. Let them appreciate our mentors, Miss Bernice and Miss Omotayo in herself, for a job well done for today's class. And then before going, I don't know if everyone else has like good lightning in where they are, but for those who do, can you turn on your cameras or videos rather, so that we can take a screenshot for our social media postings? So if that is possible, can we have our mentees turn on their videos so that we can take that? Those that are in good lightning positions, sorry, the time for class is a bit late. So, and we understand the Nigerian factor tied to it, but we would like to have our mentees also turn on their cameras if they can. Thank you. All right, thank you very much. Okay. Okay, I think that will be all for today. Thank you very much to everyone for joining in for today's class. Looking forward to see you guys next week. Every other details concerning attendance will be sent to the group chat. Do well to fill your attendance log do well to fill in the attendance while we go off this call. So thank you once again for joining. Look forward to a very interactive and a very interesting section next class. Thank you very much, and do all have a lovely night rest.